Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this important discussion on diversity in STEM right here in San Antonio. My name is Marina Gonzalez, and I have the honor of serving as the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce President and CEO. Now, today we are utilizing our Zoom platform. So if you have a question that you'd like to submit for one of our panelists, please do so using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. And we're going to do our best to try to incorporate that today towards the end of our session. And on behalf of the Hispanic Chamber, we want to welcome you today, but we also want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, Boeing, for making this event possible. Another sponsor that helped us out today is our venue sponsor, where we are at the beautiful Texas A&M San Antonio campus, coming to you live from our auditorium. So thank you, A&M, for having us today. Now, two of our main focus areas at the Hispanic Chamber are education and workforce development. We're here today to hear from some of our expert panelists on what current efforts we are experiencing in the STEM sector for workforce and how to be more inclusive for women and individuals in underrepresented populations. Today, our panel will discuss their work in the nonprofit, higher education, and workforce sectors following the pipeline from primary to secondary education, from higher education perspective, and then onto the vocational point of view. This discussion focuses on the need to promote diversity at all stages of the STEM pipeline and increase the number of people participating in the STEM careers here in San Antonio. So on behalf of the Hispanic Chamber, I want to thank our panelists for joining us today and take a moment to introduce all three. Our first panelist is Leah Rosenhauer, the CEO of Girls Inc. of San Antonio. Leah has over more than 20 years of progressive philanthropic development and management experience. Prior to her work with Girls Inc., Leah has a broad career in the nonprofit management sector, including working with Project Men, the Girl Scouts, both here in San Antonio and in St. Louis, Missouri, and with the National MS Society. In 2018, she was named the Nonprofit Senior Manager of the Year by the San Antonio Business Journal. And we are proud to share that she is a graduate of Leadership San Antonio Class 44. I'm sure it's best class ever. Yeah, exactly. Now, one of the main reasons we're excited to have Leah with us today is she is so passionate about girls' empowerment, and we want to hear more about that in the minutes to come. So please join me in welcoming Leah Rosenhauer, CEO of Girls Inc. Thank you. Our second panelist today is Dr. Cynthia Matson, who serves as the president of Texas A&M San Antonio, and San Antonio native with over 30 years of higher education experience. In 2016, she led the university's transformation from upper division to a comprehensive master's university, in addition to achieving the U.S. Department of Education Hispanic Serving Institute designation. Dr. Matson created the President's Commission on Equity to advance equity and inclusion, and she has created leadership development competency models for chief business officers in higher education, among her many other impressive accomplishments. Please welcome author, speaker, and mentor on traditional and contemporary issues in higher education leadership, Dr. Cynthia Matson. Thank you for being with us. And lastly, our third panelist today is Carlos Contreras, who currently serves as CEO for Goodwill San Antonio, where he leads the nonprofit agency in all operational and administrative areas to include the development of the organization's vision and strategic plan. Prior to joining Goodwill, Carlos served as the assistant city manager for the city of San Antonio, where he was responsible for the city's Department of Aviation, Convention of Sports Facilities, Economic Development, Government and Public Affairs, and Pre-K for SA. Carlos also led government affair efforts for the San Antonio division of nationwide home builder KB Homes and engaged in the practice of law for nearly 15 years prior to that. Carlos, congratulations on your new position of Goodwill Industries here. I believe you're in your second week, so we know how busy you are, and we're grateful to have you here with us today. Now, lastly, we are proud to partner with Boeing to bring forth this important conversation. And joining us via video for welcome remarks is Michael Lawson, the Senior Manager of Boeing Global Engagement. He's managing Boeing's corporate giving and charitable donation program for Texas and Louisiana, So to start our conversation, please welcome Michael Lawson, Global Engagement from Boeing.
Thank you, Marina, and good afternoon. Like she said, I am Michael Lawson, Senior Manager of Global Engagement for the Boeing Company here in Texas. While I'm located at our Boeing Global Services headquarters here in Plano, my responsibilities span our work in San Antonio and Houston as well. So it's great to be with you today, albeit virtually. So first of all, I want to thank the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber, all the community leaders, educators, and business partners that are in attendance today. It is Boeing's honor to host this event about not only the value of a STEM background, but also the important role that diversity plays in the STEM community. It is our mission to celebrate that diversity and make the pursuit of STEM accessible to all. Today, we will hear from nonprofits all the way to universities who are making this happen. And Boeing certainly understands the ability of a strong STEM education and background to opening career doors. At a company like Boeing, there are so many exciting and different career paths for those who are passionate about STEM. A STEM education is vital when you make the type of products that we make at Boeing, from airliners and fighter jets, satellites and rockets, unmanned submarines and space capsules. If it wasn't for smart people doing hard jobs, we would not be in the business that we're in today. So we have a team all over the globe that is focused on building these amazing products and making sure they're safe for everyone who uses them. And that global team is one way that Boeing ensures that we focus on having diversity when it comes to our products and our people. We recognize that diversity comes in many forms, and we strive to be the best, most equitable, diverse, and inclusive company. To achieve this, we need to focus on hiring a diverse workforce. For this reason, Boeing is extremely passionate about ensuring that our employment pipeline represents the diverse team that we wish to hire. This is why we place a large focus on creating, promoting, and championing programs that provide STEM engagement to populations who are typically underrepresented in these fields. There was a young lady going through a program with one of our partners who wanted to be in aviation somehow, thinking maybe one day she could be a flight attendant. After the STEM program that she participated in through Boeing sponsorship, she no longer wanted to be a flight attendant. She wanted to be a pilot. And this anecdote sums up our approach the best. Here locally, we have partnered with SAMSAT and Girls Inc. of San Antonio for years. These organizations are doing amazing work motivating underserved students to pursue STEM fields, providing engagement where it may not have been existed without their programming. We've also spent years working with Discovery Education on our Boeing Future U content at boeingfutureu.com. This content is a free resource that can be utilized by educators with their students, as well as Boeing employees wanting to engage with students in their communities. We ultimately desire for every student, whatever their identity or background, to feel empowered to follow their dreams, especially if those dreams involve a STEM career. So I know we will hear a rich discussion on this and so much more today. And so I thank our panelists for the passion that you bring to the subject each and every day. Thank you for all those tuning in. Your interest today can help change a life. And a special thanks to you, Marina Gonzalez and the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber, for being our partner today and a consistent leader in diversity in STEM. I look forward to hearing from our esteemed panelists. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Michael, for that wonderful introduction. We are so proud to partner with you as well. And what a perfect segue, the story about the young lady who decided to go into the STEM industry. So we will start off with you, Leah, to kick off our conversation about how your perspective is in the nonprofit world. So tell us about your program and how Girls Inc. works with your youth.
Excellent. Thank you, Marina. Thank you again for having me here today. So I want to tell you a story. When a girl is 4, she's rambunctious, she's energetic, she's curious, she doesn't question herself, she explores everything. By the time that girl is 14, she questions herself. She doubts her ability in math and science. She believes it when other people tell her that math or engineering or chemistry is not for her. So what happens between 4 and 14? Girls need positive female role models, and they need safe spaces to see what they can become and be encouraged. It's not about their interest in STEM, it's about their support system to be able to tackle hard things. As we just heard from Michael, individuals need to do hard things to solve hard problems in our society, and girls need to be at the table. Girls Inc. inspires girls to be strong, smart, and bold. We take a whole girl approach to helping girls be healthy, educated, and independent. Strong, smart, bold, healthy, educated, dependent. You know, there's a rhythm there. We work with girls ages 6 to 18, and we want them to see a world outside their backyard. So I say I have the best job. I'm sure my panelists will disagree that they think they have the best job. I have the best job because I get to put positive female role models in the lives of girls, because girls simply cannot become what they don't see. If everything in your world is small and you have never seen an architect that looks like you, a civil engineer that looks like you, a pilot that looks like you, why would you ever think those jobs are available? So that's what we do at Girls Inc. We provide programming after school, summer, weekends. We take a hard look at providing support systems for girls. And it's not just one and done. We know that sustained exposure, mentoring experiences, ongoing support are critical to help girls overcome barriers to their success. So one of our biggest programs is our 5-year Eureka program. So we're recruiting class 6. 5 years ago, our first class ever of a 5-year STEM focused program was right here at Texas A&M. Dr. Matson and her staff said, come on, let's show these girls what college is all about. And now, 5 years later, these girls are graduating from high school. But it takes all of us to help these girls succeed. And when I talk about a whole girl experience, I want to talk about one of the girls in the graduating class. She is receiving a full ride to Ohio State University. We are so proud of her. But there are challenges. It's not just about academics, and it's not just about financial aid. It's about having support systems for her to leave her family. If this year has shown us anything, we are all dealing with grief, with loss, with pressures at home. And so at Girls Inc., we work with partners to overcome all of those barriers so that girls are set up for success.
Absolutely. And what a wonderful perspective to bring to the table, that it's a holistic approach to making sure that our young girls are ready from that primary and secondary education perspective. So I'd like to ask you to dive in a little bit more about how the science, engineering, technology, and math work into your curriculum.
Excellent. So at Girls Inc., our STEM curriculum is called Operation SMART, Science, Math, and Relevant Technology. Because we know that the STEM programs of 10 years ago, or when I was in high school, are certainly not the STEM programs of today. So we want girls to understand and appreciate relevant technology. But here's the difference. At Girls Inc., we start with the assumption that girls are good at math and science. We just start there. We start with the assumption that girls want to learn and break things, and we get over the yuck factor. We tell girls not to buy into stereotypes that, you know, that's not the feminine thing to do, or girls don't play in the mud or with bugs or with chemistry sets. We start with that basic assumption. And one of our core beliefs is girls have the right to prepare for interesting work and economic independence. And we know that the STEM careers of tomorrow are well-paying jobs that will help women support their families, support their communities, and we want girls to see those opportunities. And so we don't say, oh, you know, if it's hard, it's okay, you don't have to do it. If it's hard, get curious. How can we help you? How can we provide support so you can go back and try again? So you make mistakes and you learn how to improve upon them. It's about problem solving. It's about understanding that science and STEM and math are all around us and that you can do this. And I think that for many, many girls, they've never heard that they can be successful in these fields. And knowing that there's a place that from the very beginning, we know that they can be successful, that they don't have to overcome those stereotypes, because we're at Girls Inc., that safe space. You can make mistakes, ask questions, not be afraid to be wrong. So many girls are told, you know, oh, if I don't know the answer, maybe I shouldn't raise my hand. We say, raise your hand. Who cares if you're wrong? Try again. And that happens in all of our programs. So problem solving, curiosity, STEM is from the very, very beginning. But like I said earlier, it's a whole girl approach. Because if you've never seen a female architect, you may not even know what an architect does. There was a study several years ago that was published in the New York Times that asked kindergartners to draw a scientist. You know, same piece of paper, draw a scientist. Okay, both boys and girls drew a picture of a man, right? And that is still some of the stereotypes and the common things that we think of. So we try to show girls that they can be in any kind of field. Boeing, our sponsor today, has encouraged us and has allowed pre-pandemic to do tours. And so girls got to meet with civil engineers. They got to be in these big, complicated airplanes. They got to talk to supply chain management. Who knew that was a career? But girls get to meet all of these wonderful professions. And whether or not they stay in STEM or go on to be an English major or go on to, you know, be a welder or go and be a pilot, they have had these experiences that create possibilities. And that's what we're about.
So true. Representation matters. That is one of the reasons why it's so important to have this discussion today and hear about some of those efforts. So I'm just curious, would you say that that is the biggest, the stereotype that females do not belong in STEM? Is that the biggest, is that the biggest barrier you've experienced with your girls?
That and a lot of family pressure. So I spoke earlier about one of our graduating seniors. So with the pandemic this year, they lost their grandmother. And through the grief, through the family loss, there's also family pressure for her not to go away, to stay home and help take care of little brother, to stay home and get a job and maybe go to school part-time. So there's still some barriers, and we get it. You know, family responsibility is real, and having to work and go to school is often required, right? And this pandemic has really opened up more of those problems and challenges that we knew were there, but it's just kind of exposed them. So between stereotypes and family pressure and not thinking that these careers are for you are some of the biggest challenges that we help the girls overcome.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. I am seeing a shout out in the chat box that Girls Inc. is amazing. So we'd have to agree with that. Thank you for sharing that. Keep those QAs coming and keep the chats coming. We can see them in real time. So Leah, we've got one more question for you.
Absolutely.
So right now, what's trending with our girls? What are the careers that they are interested in and what gives them inspiration?
Robotics. Yeah, like,
Interesting.
yeah, robotics. We have lots of girls that are interested in robotics, and I do a lot of work with talk about stereotypes with robotics teams. And so we talk about assumptions so often that girls are just assumed they don't want to learn to code. And so on the robotics teams, they may be looked at to take the notes or to do the display board or to do the research, and that the boys wanted to code, but the girls are interested in coding, in robotics. They see it as really problem solving. Girls love to give back to their communities, solve problems. We had one of our Eureka students have a research internship where she studied a robotic arm to help dispense medicine. So maybe in a third world country or someplace where doctors and nurses aren't available, is there a robotic solution to dispensing medicine? I have no idea, but it's a possibility. And one of our girls got to really experience that in the lab. Last summer it was virtual, but anyway, we're getting back to being in person. So robotics are interesting, problem solving is interesting, medicine. I mean, as this pandemic has certainly shown us how viruses work. So we've gotten a lot of interest in biotech and how technology and biology can work together. Lots of interest in that as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Leah. We are getting some questions, so we'll go ahead and incorporate one right now because I think it's timely. How do people volunteer with you?
Oh, excellent. girlsincsa.org. Just log on to our website, and we want girls to experience all kinds of people, experiences, opportunities. So check out our website, send us an email. We have virtual volunteer opportunities. We have in-person volunteer opportunities. because really girls can't become what they don't see.
There you go. The future is female. Thank you for your work. Hopefully we'll hear from you towards the end of our session for some more Q&A. I do see a couple more questions, so keep them coming, coming, please. We're going to move on to the higher education perspective with Dr. Matson. So Texas A&M San Antonio is really growing. It's such a beautiful campus, and we know that we have a high number of first-time college students. So what are some of the barriers when encouraging students to pursue STEM careers?
You know, I often tell people talent is universal, opportunity is not. That's one of the major driving forces that we have to think about when we're talking to kids in middle school and high school about STEM careers in their future. One of the challenges we find for students, and Leah was referencing this in terms of Girls Inc., is you have to see it to be it. That's number one. And when you're coming from some of the local districts, not all of them are resourced in the same way. So the opportunities, the understanding, the exposure, particularly if you're a first generation college student, which basically means college wasn't in your family history, you may not know what a white collar opportunity looks like. What is a career in computer science, information technology, cybersecurity, biological sciences, the biotech fields, all of the professions we've been talking about, and many more that are yet to be invented. What does that even look like? So we find if a student comes to A&M San Antonio, or any campus for that matter, as an incoming freshman and doesn't have all of the academic readiness and the rigor in mathematics or the basic understanding of science, it automatically adds time to degree to get them into some of those high-tech, high-paying, high-wage jobs. And so they give up from the beginning in some cases. So it takes a lot of stick-to-itness, but it also has pointed the door to needing universities to lean in, which we are doing at A&M, to middle schools and high schools, and helping to create that curriculum and that pipeline so that students understand that. The other piece is once they're here, helping students experience through work study, through experiential learning, through service learning in classes, which didn't always occur when we were in college, but students actually do a lot of hands-on project-based learning, learn while doing. So they are exposed to the problem solving and the curiosity that you were mentioning, Leah, in their college assignments. So it is learn by doing philosophy, both in curricular and co-curricular activities. So one of the real keys is a lot of engagement, a lot of student engagement, a lot of year-round engagement, peer mentor networks, peer supports, in addition to their number one emphasis and influence, which is the faculty member in the classroom. So there are lots of opportunities, and we're working hard to move students in that direction. We have about 6,800 students registered here in the normal semester, fall of 2020. That was our number. And about a quarter of those, 25%, are enrolled in either computers or STEM, science and math, or computer science and cyber engineering technology, which we offer here, as well as cybersecurity itself.
That's wonderful. And so as one of the largest higher educational institutes here in San Antonio, where do you see the future of STEM workforce?
Well, obviously, it's a critical factor for really the state of Texas. And San Antonio is a big part of the state of Texas. We're one of the largest cities in Texas. So we're fortunate to have the economic investment that the city is making, that the county has made, using the 1/8 sales tax to support training and workforce development, to support degree completion if you've got some credits but no degree. We know the high demand, high wage jobs are in the sciences, in public health, in healthcare administration, in mathematics, in teaching, but teaching in the sciences, as well as the obvious in the computer science, IT, etc. So the demand is only going to go up. And there's a huge demand, as we all know on the call, for mid-level and senior level positions. So not just entry level. And Leah was talking about some of that, and we know how to get people into their first job, but we really need to be attractive in the continuous cycle of learning. So we've always in higher ed talked about continuous learning. We called it lifelong learning. All of us probably participate in lifelong learning. Now the new words are upskilling and reskilling. It's the same thing. So how do you continue to get to the next level of preparation to meet the next level of workforce demands? So we see employers are doing more of that. chambers, like the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber, a lot of partnerships, a lot of collaborative partnerships with my colleagues at Girls Inc. As you heard from early in Eureka, we hosted their first camp and we will do it again, to work we hope to do with the Goodwill and some of their programming. So really, it takes all of us coming together. And I think in the old days, we wanted to think about things that we could do in our own lanes. I wouldn't even say we were siloed. I just think we work in our own lanes. I sometimes say we're traveling down the freeway in 3 different cars, like this analogy here on the stage. Now we need a bigger, faster car, and we need to be in the same car. And so we're really thinking about how can we pick up on everybody's best talents, best skill development within their own companies and business lanes, and bring that into the education experience. And for the university, how do we look outward in terms of supporting not only K-12, which is the easy part, but workforce development, credentialing, certificates. If we can do that, we add that value in the accreditation process and in the certification process and in the transcripting process, so that those employees, those people have stackable skills, stackable credentials, building always to the next level of promotional opportunities at their work or coming back to school in the professional trades. And I think all of us now are going to have a component of public health, no matter what your job is. We all will have a component of cyber, no matter what your job is, because that's everywhere. So it really is going to be very integrated in all that we're doing. But as all of us on the call know, we have a lot of challenges ahead of us to get there. And that's really where we need to collaborate and work together.
Absolutely. And, you know, A&M is so beautifully located in the heart of our South Side here in our community. And I'm curious if with COVID, how has your recruitment efforts shifted, or your strategy in making sure that we are still connecting with our youth?
So I'm glad you asked that question. We talk about, here at A&M, I always talk about 2 things: leveraging the A&M system excellence and leveraging our geography. And two important things that you should know is about 20% of our students come from within a 10-mile radius. Our students are actually coming from all over. A big bulk of our students come from the Northwest. A big bulk of our students come from Bernie. They come from Schertz. They come from Braunfels. They come from Austin. They come from Houston. They're coming from around the state. While we're still 80% serving their county beyond San Antonio, a growing number of our students are coming from outside the state and internationally, as well as what we're doing here in the region. So to your question, it's also really important for students to recognize the broader world. And so we try to bring students from other parts of the city, other parts of the state, and other parts of the country to recognize how we can create that diversity of thought right here in their classroom. So even if the students from Southside are not leaving their communities, the communities integrating with their best selves and that information. So we find that to be another really important attribute of how we're recruiting and retaining and reaching out to students.
And that speaks perfectly to the idea of diversity, right? It's not just necessarily based on one population over another. It's really where you're coming from, what your perspective is in the world, and those different perspectives coming together to bring more thought and creativity into these industries.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Matson. That's wonderful perspective to share today. And I'm sure we will hear a little more from you at the end of our program. So I do want to shift now to Mr. Contreras, coming from as our new CEO of Goodwill. From the vocational perspective, now you definitely have a long history of workforce development here in San Antonio. And as a veteran of the city of San Antonio, what are some of your most important workforce initiatives?
Well, Marina, thank you so much for having me here today. And to all of my co-panelists, you mentioned that the future is bright for women. Seems the present is pretty bright for women as far as I can see here on this panel. And thank you all thank you also to Michael and Boeing for being a sponsor here. Boeing is a tremendous partner in the community, and I really want to extend our appreciation to Boeing, Tyler locally, Michael as well, for all of what you do in our community. So the city of San Antonio, I may slip and say we throughout this, so please forgive me if I do.
That's fair enough.
City of San Antonio has been involved in workforce development for decades now, primarily through the development, through the delegate agency system that we have. We do RFPs for nonprofits and others to respond to delegate agency work. A lot of the work that's done is in workforce development, but it's principally done through the Economic Development Department. And over the years, we've provided funding for projects like or programs that are operated by Project Quest, by others that are involved in workforce development. Lots of success. In fact, Project Quest has been involved now so much that they're now part of the budget, the annual budget that they get directly from the city. So always been involved in workforce development. But about a year ago this time, the leadership team of the city were sort of thinking about how we would respond to the pandemic that was occurring, and try to determine what was the impact on our community, what was the impact to businesses, what was the impact to people, to communities that are the hardest to be served. As we all know, the pandemic has had an incredible impact on women and on people of color and on small businesses. So in part with the infusion of funding from the federal government through the CARES Act, and also through other funding sources that the city put together, we created a recovery and resiliency plan. And it was close to $500 million in funding that addressed all of the impacts that COVID-19 presented to our community, from a health perspective, for people who now find themselves unable to pay the utilities, to pay the rent, for small businesses, to help them with grants, grants for micro businesses to be able to help them succeed, to a whole host of areas, including workforce development. And our staff, I'm very proud of them. They put together for the first time ever, at-scale workforce development program that would provide retraining for individuals who were really disproportionately affected by COVID-19. So individuals that were in so-called low-skill jobs, individuals who worked at maybe hospitality industry or retail. And we knew, based on data and research we've been doing, that the likelihood of those jobs coming back was pretty small in any short period of time. It's going to take years for that to occur. So we developed what is now called the Train for Jobs program. And that program provided workforce training in certificates that are recognized by industry, and also provided a stipend so that people could pay for their necessary expenses while they got retrained. So the great program. It's still underway. You can still get involved in it if you'd like to, or if you know somebody that can benefit from that retraining. That led to a discussion about what do we do about the future. That was $75 million. It was a one-year program. And thanks to people like Dr. Matson and others, Dr. Amy and others, we came up in a very short period of time with an initiative that we would take to voters to consider during the November 2020 election. And that became known as the Ready to Work SA program. That included workforce training, but critically, it required that we involve businesses and industries that had jobs available today. And what we've seen is, since this discussion is about STEM, what we've seen is STEM associated jobs were fairly pandemic proof. And those are the folks, those are the businesses today that are trying to hire people with the necessary skills. So the Ready to Work program, which is funded over a 5-year period, will generate what is estimated to be about $160 million or so over that period, and is dedicated to provide people with the skills they need to find the jobs that are available today. I'm very proud of that program because of the partnerships that we have with universities, and we involved industry, and they all got together and really designed the parameters of the program. Ordinarily, if you take an item to city council that you want to get approved, that you're going to eventually take to the voters, that's a year-long process typically. I think, Dr. Matson, we started in June. And
It's like
we
5 weeks.
presented that to City Council in August in time to call the election for November. So I'm very proud of that work.
That's excellent. Now, you just started at Goodwill, week number 2, I think so. Many of us are unfamiliar with just how far the reach that Goodwill has in our community in terms of all the different types of programs and initiatives that you're now overseeing. So could you explain to us a little bit more about how many employees do you have and what do those different departments look like?
Sure. Well, this is actually day 7.5 of my work with Goodwill, and it's a phenomenal organization. Like many people, I wasn't fully aware of just how broad and deep this organization is, and what its purpose really was. And I sort of had an idea of what the purpose was, but didn't know the way that I'm learning now. So a little bit of history and maybe a public service announcement, if I
Please,
can, about
absolutely.
Goodwill, a little commercial. So in 1902, a Methodist minister named Edgar Helms, recognizing what was happening in the country at that time, and in Boston specifically, and seeing what was happening to immigrants as they came into the United States and were left to their own devices on how they would deal with, how they would get a job, how they would adjust. He saw the need to try to provide some assistance to people. And so we developed a really great concept that he would go to wealthy individuals and not ask for money, but ask for things they were no longer using, clothing they were no longer wearing. And so he would initially provide that to the individuals he was trying to serve. He learned very quickly that we would do better if we would help them gain self-sufficiency, help them get training, help them into a job. And so Goodwill International was born in 1902 in Boston with the specific purpose of fighting poverty and creating opportunity. Now, fast forward a little bit to 1945 here in San Antonio. Bill Sinkin and other community leaders in San Antonio saw the need right here in our own city to do the same, because as we all know, poverty has been present in San Antonio for decades. And so they started the Goodwill here for the specific purpose of fighting poverty and creating opportunity. That is embedded in everything we do as an organization. It drives our mission to help change people's lives through the power of work. So that's what you'll hear us talk about a lot. When you go to donate at a Goodwill location at a store, and you hear that Goodwill teammate tell you, thank you for helping to change lives, it's part of that our mission, and we live it internally and we live it externally. So a little bit about what we do. So we're all familiar with the retail outlets. Many of us donate there. Some of us shop there and find some really great deals, by the way, when we shop there. We have about 700 plus employees that work for the retail outlets. Our area in the San Antonio area covers 24 counties. We don't have facilities in every single county, but that's our area. It's as north of Kerr County to south to Webb County. We have 22 store locations, and the revenue that we generate from donated items that we generate helps to fulfill our mission. And I'll talk a little bit more about the mission services that we do. It's a very sophisticated operation. As you can imagine, when we donate items, we don't separate them. We just sort of put them all together and take them off to the store and expect that somehow they'll get separated and assessed and, come on, admit it. Some of us turn it, give things that need repair sometimes. So that is done either at the facility if there's room. And we also operate a 200,000 square foot production facility where we will separate, sort, evaluate, return the items back to the store where you donated so they can be sold there. A component of that work is to evaluate the quality of what you're providing and to see whether there's another way to sell that and market that to get the most value to serve our mission. So we have people trained on how to identify high quality items that really might be better put onto our website, and I'll give you a hint, shopgoodwill.com. I'll say it one more time, shopgoodwill.com. You can find some really great things there that come from things that people donate. When I was touring the facility recently, in the jewelry section, they were separating the jewelry, and our teammates were taking pictures of a Tiffany bracelet that they were going to put on shopgoodwill.com here locally, because that was donated by somebody who may not have known exactly what that was, or maybe they did. Maybe they realized what we would do with that. So revenue generated from there, we generate typically, not in a pandemic year, but typically about $45 million a year from that. And we also run a business services division, and we contract, we do outsourcing work for businesses or government. We do it primarily in medical records scanning and digital work, administrative staffing. Right here in San Antonio, your Goodwill San Antonio has a contract with the Air Force and the Army to scan medical records from service members and put them in a format that can be utilized by the VA when they're providing services to the veterans and to the service members. That's done here. Imagine you serve in Iraq, you serve in Afghanistan, you serve in San Diego, and you get medical care everywhere. And in the past, you could not receive any kind of services until all those records, which were paper, were assembled and sent to the VA. So today they all come through San Antonio. We digitize them. We've increased we sped up the process for being able to provide services to veterans and service members. We also have a contract out at Randolph where we essentially do all of the back office personnel management activity, administrative activity for the entire Air Force right here in Randolph. Goodwill employees do that. And as an organization, in living our dream, we prefer when we hire people with disabilities, people with major life barriers. So specifically in the business services division, the entire division, 81% of the people have disabilities, a medically documented disability. In the Randolph example I just talked about, where we provide that sort of back office work, including the administration of medals to members that receive the medals, 91% of the people have a disability, a documented disability. And during the pandemic, they continue to work throughout the time. They never shut down. They continued working through that. I'm very proud of what they did. So the medical business services includes those activities I just mentioned, as well as landscaping, commercial tree services. We operate a call and contact center for the Alamo colleges. When you call Alamo colleges, you're calling Goodwill here in San Antonio, and we provide that first level of assistance to students and the individuals calling the Alamo colleges and others as well. Revenue generated from that line of business also serves the mission. So the mission services division of Goodwill provides vocational training, certifications, industry recognized certifications, many of them in STEM-related fields. So we do commercial driver's license. We also have certified nursing assistants training. We get certifications there, pharmacy technicians, as well as medical assistants. We also are involved in education. We do education and training as well. So we work with at-risk youth to try to get them back into school or get them into a job. We're now embarking on a digital literacy program in partnership with JPMorgan Chase. We're going to provide some training. The pandemic revealed just the need for that. One thing I failed to mention in the STEM area, and I'll go on to other, give it back to you, is we often get donated computer equipment and other electronic equipment, and so we repurpose that and provide that back to the community at an affordable price. We have people trained on how to wipe all personal data clean, rebuild them, put them back into store into production. 93 cents of every dollar donated, or every item that turns into a dollar donated, funds our mission. the balance, of course, we got to pay rent and we got to pay utilities and those kinds of things as well. But it's a phenomenal organization.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing all of that. And so much more beyond the retail, the storefront that I think most of us are used to seeing. And we were chatting, you have over 1,500 employees, is
We have
that correct?
1,500 employees. Our budget is about $100 million here in San Antonio, 1,500 employees.
Wonderful. Well, we look forward to continuing in support of you in your new role.
Thank you.
We do have some questions, so we're going to pivot to that at this point. I'm going to start back with you, Leah, and see one here. How is Girlbeat coming along right now with the pandemic? Do you have face-to-face programming?
Yeah, that's a great question. So within 30 days of the pandemic, right after spring break of 2020, we were able to quickly pivot to provide online opportunities for girls to get together and get support and to have opportunities to see and meet others virtually. So we were 98% virtual until about the last 4 months. And we've been slowly bringing students back to our campus for in-person programming. All CDC safety protocols, just like, all of San Antonio, masks required. But the face-to-face contact sparks an energy that we didn't even realize was missing. And so we're very excited to finally bring back in-person summer camp, both for elementary and middle school girls, lower capacity, but they'll be able to be in person, learning from each other, having a great opportunity to reinforce the academic lessons that may have been lost this year. We know that the academic disruptions of the pandemic were a lot, and we'll be part of the solution of helping students learn and girls learn and catch up and reinforce some of the lessons that they may or may not have listened to online all that well. So we get to do that without testing, without papers. We just get to have fun, informal, continuous learning. And so we'll be bringing that back in person starting in June. So we're very excited.
Great. And that sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, a ton of fun. Ton of fun. We call it so funny. We call our summer camp Glenda Woods Girls University purposely, because part of what we believe in at Girls Inc. is just demystifying all the stereotypes. So Dr. Matson talked about first generation college students. So if you're a potential first generation college student, what the heck is a syllabus? What's a prerequisite? So we start camp with a syllabus review. It's really what we're doing for the day, but we just try to demystify some of those terms. And then every week is a different theme, Girls University. And we talk about jobs and we talk about majors and we talk about, what are all the opportunities, whether we're talking about modern art, or we're talking about entrepreneurship, or we're talking about engineering. STEM is part of all of those topics. So we weave that through all of our summer program.
Marina, Leah brings up a good point about the demystification. Now we're using the term wraparound support. I think more and more people understand what that means. It's something that's always been around in colleges and universities. Of course, everyone could do better. But we're also now seeing this has been a real result of the pandemic in terms of individuals. Carlos mentioned the statistics for women and communities of color, that wraparound support is really broadening to mean everything. If we want to put people in STEM professions, we're going to have to invest and retool our wraparound support programs to be more progressive in that front. So I'm glad you gave some exemplars of that, but it really means everything: transportation, childcare, food insecurity, housing insecurity. All of these things have to get connected before you think about learning. For some
Absolutely.
communities.
That's a perfect segue, Dr. Matson, if I could just.
Yes,
jump on that.
please.
So part of the secret sauce of how we take and think about the people that we prefer when we hire, think about the people that have documented disabilities, what helps them succeed and what helps fulfill our mission of helping them grow their careers is the lifestyle coaching that we do, which incorporates exactly what you're talking about. If you can't pay your rent and you can't get medical access to medical care, how are you going to get trained for a job? How do you do that? And so what Goodwill does is we recognize that as an important component of success. And so we provide it internally to our own employees so that they can promote within the business. We promote our own from within. And we give them the skills they need to the lifestyle coaches, as well as externally to the community and the services we provide at the career centers, Goodwill career centers, where you do job placement. We help people come out and just fill out an application and get training on how to use the computer and so forth. And then if they need some additional assistance, we do that, the academies and throughout. So that's very important.
I think we've all learned a lot, Marina, about equity. And you think about STEM careers, it all starts with a long legacy of inequitable opportunities. And so we, I think, have a deeper and richer contextual understanding of the concept of equity and the difference between equity and equality. And then that equity lens has really been applied to health. We were describing health equity, digital equity, racial literacy and equity. So we've learned a lot. And I think it's only going to help those STEM professions. It's going to take a while, but to get that readiness going, but we'll have to be intentional about it, as Carlos was describing at the very onset of the description of what our local government is trying to achieve. But all of us have responsibilities in that, especially the universities. And so a lot more opportunity for scholarships to help people get over the financial barriers so they can keep moving forward.
So go ahead,
Well,
please.
I was going to say, it's interesting you talk about financial barriers and equity. So I think we all recognize that variety is the norm. And so if we really are looking through an equity lens, what works for one student or one girl in high school may not work for a different girl in high school, and that's okay. And that we look at the whole person, those wraparound services, and target what do you need to be successful? Is it a connection and help with food insecurity? Is it transportation? Is it paid internships? I mean, I'll be honest, growing up, I did a lot of unpaid internship time, but I had the opportunity to do that. And I had the support at home to be able to do that. Many students today need to work to help support their family, to help give back to, transportation so they can get places. So it's about looking and asking questions about how can we help you succeed? What do you need to be successful? And it may be more than just tutoring, and we know it is. And that variety is the norm, and that we work together, for me, to help girls overcome all of those barriers.
Absolutely. And I think it takes that collaboration, right? So you guys mentioned some of the partnerships that you have collectively or with other entities in San Antonio or beyond. And so we, at the Hispanic Chamber, being that education and workforce development is such a strong pillar and our priority and part of the community, and making sure that we're doing our part, please know that we're a resource to you, of course, and we look forward to continuing this ongoing discussion. It's very timely, it's necessary, and especially on the topic of equity that we're hearing so much more about, which is wonderful. And hopefully we can help break down those barriers and get more individuals into the STEM programs here in San Antonio. So thank you to our panelists for joining us today. CEO Contreras, congratulations again. We have Dr. Matson, of course, of A&M San Antonio, and CEO Rosenhauer with Girls Inc. of San Antonio. And on behalf of the Hispanic Chamber, my name is Marina Gonzalez, your president and CEO. Thank you so much for joining us today. We do want to also give a shout out again to Boeing, our sponsor, and A&M for hosting us in their beautiful auditorium. We hope to see you again on some of our events coming up, so don't miss out. You can check us out Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and our website for more upcoming discussions. Thank you all and have a wonderful day.